Fellow tennis nerds, another day, another conversation. Daniel is here again. He's leaving to Germany tomorrow. We've been playing a lot of tennis over this period. We also played a doubles tournament, and he played two singles tournaments. He won both on the ITF Seniors Tour, or Masters Tour, which is called now, which is a nicer name, I guess. And we won our doubles tournament, much thanks to him, not so much thanks to me. Today we're going to talk a bit about competitive tennis because it's something I think a lot of people struggle with. Like they love training or hitting with their friend or whatever, and then when it comes to competition you get super tight, or you don't want to make a fool out of yourself, and you start hating yourself during the match, or you get a lot of negative emotions. You know, I do that too. We all do that, I think. What's been your journey with competitive play? You played as a junior really high level, then you stopped tennis for personal reasons for a while, and you came back, and now you're like competing again, and you seem to be enjoying it. You're using it kind of as like your own journey or therapy, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah, it's a therapy. Tennis is a therapy. I think in general, the difficult part about tennis is that you are alone on the court if you play singles, and all the pressure is on you, all the responsibility is on you, and that shows your own demons that you have.
100%,
probably.
100%. Yeah.
I didn't compete a lot after I was 18. About this time I stopped, and then when I was 28, almost 29, I got back into tennis, but I started where I left off.
Yeah.
So like when it comes to competition. So I didn't mature there because I didn't compete, and I didn't play like...
You don't grow that muscle, like it's a separate muscle from
Yes.
training, I would say. Like you can have a better technique, but the patterns of competing will still show up there.
Yes, 100%. Like, and all the patterns mentally show up
that's
as well.
what I mean, yeah.
That you have, and this is what I learned. You have to work on that. You have to try to figure out what the things are that bother you on the court. It's different for everybody, but it's a challenge when you start that. A challenge where you will fall down a lot.
Yep. The thing about tennis, which I think is not maybe talked about enough, is that to win a match, you need to win like 51% of the points, pretty much. Like sometimes you win fewer points and you still win. Yeah. But there's also a thing where in tennis you lose a lot. Like every player on the ATP Tour, they lose a lot. I mean, Novak, Rafa, Roger, they're a bit outliers. They won a lot of matches. But most players, even very, very good players, top 20, top 50, top 100, they lose a lot of matches. Like you go to a tournament, at some point you lose. Like winning a tournament on the ATP or WTA is tough. It's like, that's very, very rare. So you get used to like, okay, the third round, second round, first round, maybe get a quarter, that's great. But then you will get used to losing. You have to use the losses, right?
Yeah, most of the players have 50% win rate.
Yeah.
A bit above, maybe if they're like top 30 or something. Yeah. But just the top have like 80, 70% win rate. Most of them are around 50%. Yeah. And so you go on the court and you have a 50% chance of losing. This can be a one mindset, but the other mindset can be have a 50% chance of winning.
But also that takes some pressure out of you, right? So if you go down and say, okay, it's not easy to win a tennis match. Let's say you're competing against players of your own level, slightly higher, slightly lower, whatever. Don't be so hard on yourself. Like just try to enjoy it. That's the hard thing. Like I struggle with that sometimes. Like I put a lot of pressure on me that I should play better than I in my head, you know. And then you're when it's not going your way, you're like, oh, you know, you're getting very negative on yourself. Like when you should have a bit more positive self-talk. Like the way you talk to yourself is usually more important than how others talk to you, right? That's like the worst. If you talk badly to yourself, that's quite bad for you, technically, right?
Yeah, when you like change the perspective, like you on the court alone, you want to compete, you have to fight the guy on the girl on the other side. And when you're negative to yourself, you have no support at all.
No.
Like
you're your only supporter maybe, because like sometimes if you play a competition, rarely maybe even on like the seniors level, there's a lot of a crowd. But like I had matches where I have maybe 2 people that supported me or 0, mostly often 0. I think that's for most people. But I've had matches where like there's 10, 15 people against you. You're like a coach and he has his students there, and that's tough. Like you need to be at least your own like support team, kind of be like, okay, come on, you know, do it.
Yeah. For me, the most important thing is like when you play tennis and you feel like you have the same patterns over and over. You have to be reflective of that, like what happens in matches emotionally. How do I feel? And if you feel the patterns, you have to look into that, not say, this will go away if I do more competitions. Yeah. It doesn't go away. Like it will stay if you don't look at it and face it. Maybe talk about it with a mental coach, for example. Because these things will not go away, and they will like hurt the time you have on the court. You don't have fun.
No, exactly. I think that is the worst thing. So it's like then competition has so much like tension around it that it's easily kind of eats away of your own tennis enjoyment,
Yes.
right? And if you don't enjoy being out there competing, there's one way, which is like, okay, I will not compete because I don't enjoy it. I play badly and I feel like I should beat these guys and I don't, right?
Yeah.
Or you can use it and say, this is a challenge. I have to get to a place where I enjoy it, but I have to work on some things because I often get into a mental state where I'm disliking the moment. Like I'm not in the moment, right? I'm not really appreciating the battle or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the funny thing is the patterns you see on the tennis court are also usually patterns that you have in life as well,
Yeah.
in some other places. And when you think about that, maybe you find the same patterns, like
I think 100%,
how you do in your profession when you work, or like with the family or stuff like that. There can be things where you feel like, okay, this might be the same. And when you look at it and try to like not find a solution but understand what is going on, this can help you on the tennis court as well, and can help you in life as well.
Yeah.
So this is what I like about tennis. It's not just about the tennis, it's also what you gain from facing the demons in other parts of your life.
It becomes like a reflection, like a mirror. Like what
Yes.
you're seeing on the tennis court is probably happening somewhere in your life. It might not be. Some people have like, oh, their work life is completely different, but then the tennis self shows up in the relationship, for example,
Yes.
like in their marriage or friendships or whatever. Or it could be that shows up in work or in every step of the way, right? Like if you're tough on yourself, like I'm tough on myself in business and in general, it will show up on the tennis court. So being a bit more happy with yourself or being a bit more forgiving with yourself probably is like a good thing overall, you know,
Yeah.
depending on who you are. But some people then are too forgiving for themselves for everything, right? They're like, oh, no problem, like this. That's also not so good if you want to improve, because you have to push yourself a bit as well.
Yeah, yeah, but I think this is very important that you like face the things and not look away, because what will happen if you don't enjoy and you don't face your demons, then you stop competing at some point.
Yeah,
Then you say, I'm not going to do this, but you still like deep within yourself want to compete. Then you have a problem. Like you want to compete, you're not going there because you don't enjoy. Maybe you stop tennis.
Happens. I think a lot of people do that. Like they get disappointed.
Yes. The other thing is, if you don't want to face it, then you just can enjoy hitting. This is also fine. But if you want to compete, I think then you have to look into the issues you have, like on the court, and think about where you see the patterns as well, and try to figure out what is going on there. And then you can get better on the court and enjoy this more. Like when I started playing tennis again after I had a long break, I didn't enjoy competing at all. I played a lot of tournaments and it didn't get better.
No.
I needed to like work on that.
Yep.
Like see, where is this coming from? Why do I feel bad? Why am I so negative to myself?
That's
So
classic, I would say.
destructive. Yeah. And now I'm at a spot where I like playing tournaments. I like competing, and I don't like run away from competing. I'm a competitor on the court. I'm not getting bullied around on the court as well. So even if the atmosphere on the court is not the greatest, what can happen in tennis.
Yeah,
some players, some tennis players are like this, but I still can enjoy that and see the competition and just hit the balls and not think about the things that are like going around, because this is what happened as well. Like I tried to run away from the competition, but I was competing. But then was not running away, but I was like focused on everything else around the court, like the bad bounces, shitty balls, racket is not good, opponent is not nice, he's cheating, whatever, right? You have all this stuff going on in your head, and you don't focus on what you are supposed to do on the court. It's like playing the ball in the court.
And it's like you have the circumstances. It's so easy to get hung up, because sometimes the circumstances are tough. Like you have bad bounces, you play on clay. We don't like clay. We've said that many times. But the opponent has the same situation, so you can only do your best. Like you're now in the match, and that's the interesting thing. Like you can choose to escape the match and be like, okay, I'm gonna tank this, which we've all done that. I think like you see it on the ATP tour when the player starts just like swiping the ball. I mean, there's some pretty bad ones like Tomic and Kyrgios and these guys who they don't even try to hit the ball. It's just like walking away in the point. You know, you get fines and stuff. But you see that also on amateur level. You don't want to be in the set. You're just running away from it. I don't want to be here anymore. This sucks. This whole experience sucks. But really, it's like this because conditions are the same for the opponent. So you can only do your best in that situation from where you are. You know, you have nothing else. But it's easy in retrospect and very tough when you're in the like fight or flight mode, right?
Yeah.
Which can happen, right?
Yeah, that you want to run away. You can see that also, like when it comes to decision making of shots. Sometimes
100%,
you bail out of the rally, for example. You go for winners where it's
completely pointless, and everybody sees that the percentage of that shot is so bad for you, but you still take it because then the rally ends.
Yeah.
Instead of, because what happens in a tennis rally is that the tension escalates, right? So the longer the rally goes, you can watch it on TV, you can experience it yourself. Like the longer the rally goes, the more exciting the point gets, because you're also like, oh, wow, this is a good rally. We're hitting many shots. The stakes are higher, but it's still worth only 1 point.
Yes.
But the stakes feel higher. It feels like who wins this point is going to have so much momentum. You know, I want to win this point because it's been long. And so it's a funny thing. Like the tension increases, the importance of the point in your head increases, but it's only 1 point.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tough to manage that energy, right? Like that's and that makes it easy then to be like, okay, I'm going to go for the winner. And I think a lot of club players, and myself included, have been through this, is that they play this aggressive tennis because there's a bit of a cop-out, right?
Yes.
And also it tells you a little bit about how consistent you are. Like, so a lot of players, oh no, I like to go for my shots all the time. Is it because you lack consistency, you're not working on consistency, or is it maybe because you mentally get stressed and you're like, okay, I'm swiping the ball, I made a winner, or it went out, you know?
Yeah, or going for stupid drop shots or something like this, shots that are low percentage, but you go for them because you want to bail out of the rally, because this is too much pressure for you. And then you say, oh, the other guy was a pusher.
Classic,
I lost to a pusher, but the other guy was just more consistent, and you just went for the shots too early and didn't wait for the right shot to do. And especially when you play on clay, for example, you have to be way more patient than you are
Changes
on a hard
everything.
court, for example. Yeah, in competition, it's easy to blame everything else and not look into yourself and see what is
100%.
happening there. What are the emotions doing? It's always a roller coaster. Everybody has that with the emotions. But the thing is how you manage it on the court. And if you bail out, you lose.
Yeah. And you have to find, like, it's the tough part in tennis is managing your energy a little bit, because it's like you can go in being like the most intense guy ever, vamos, vamos, vamos.
Yeah.
And then at some point it dips usually. Like you can start first set 6-1, but the second set, it's a new start. So the opponent can start playing better, he can start loosening up, he doesn't have anything to lose anymore. But it's also finding that balance of like, I am focused, I am relaxed, but I'm not too relaxed. Like it's that beautiful balance point where you're like, you have intensity, not too much, not too little.
Yeah.
It's just finding that, you know, because that's the tough part in tennis. You can be too intense, go for too much, or you can be like where you're not even present on the court. You're like walking around like, oh, I'm not even in the match, you know, you're just hitting the ball and you don't think about it, right?
Yeah, I think this is where the regrouping part comes into play when you compete. You have to be able to regroup after what happens and then play the next point or the next game or the next set, just to come back into a state where you're focused but not tight. So
tight, and also tightness is interesting, because I think most of you have experienced like match tightness. Every tennis player has, like where suddenly it doesn't feel like you're in your own body, like your muscles are so tight, your arm doesn't want to swing, like your forehand is something different than it used to be on the training court, and that's something that helps with some match muscles. Like you play a lot of matches, you're getting into, you know, okay, this is a match situation, I need to be focused, I need to go in this. And this is where I think a lot of people be like, okay, I tried matches, it's not for me because I get so tight and the ball just goes out. And then you have this situation where you complain about the opponent, like, oh, the opponent was a pusher, which is one of the most common things. Like, how do you beat pushers? What do you do against pushers? Well, it's just a player who's using their skills, could be limited skills in terms of technique, but they're using it to get the ball back. And this is something you have to deal with. It's up to you to deal with it. Like, that's the thing. Like, you can't complain about what the other opponent does. You know, you just... Unless he's cheating, so that's it, right?
Yeah, he brings the ball back into the court one more time, and then he wins the matches. And you are not able to win that, and then the excuse is, this is a pusher, and I
don't like playing tennis like this.
I don't want to, like, and then you need a guy, because you then feel, I need a guy who is also going for the shots. He's not going for the shots, he's just missing more. And
exactly.
That's the thing. It's very, like, it's difficult, and there are pushes that just play moonballs and stuff, but this is still a challenge you can accept, or a challenge you can bail out and say, no, I don't want to play this. But this also, like, is something that can happen in life. Then you can think about, okay, what happens when I have problems in life? Do I bail out early, or am I like persistent and say, okay, I want to overcome, and then find a solution to that? And this is what I think the thing about competition and tennis is that it accentuates the things that you have already. It like really shows that you in your face what is happening within you. And that's what I like about working on that it helps me in different parts of my life and not just on the tennis court, because I won't make a living off tennis in my life.
Exactly.
But I can figure out what is happening, and then it helps me in like different parts. This is what I really like.
I think that's a good way of seeing it. And if you see it like that, maybe you will appreciate more next time you're on a match court, that like, okay, this is a challenge. It's me against myself, right? Like you're trying to be, I'm beating my demons. It doesn't matter if you lose 6-2, 6-2, or you win 7-6, 7-5 or whatever. It's about you overcoming your own challenges, not so much. Because sometimes the focus gets so much on the opponent or the point or the standing. And I think like what's like the score in the match. And this is what's something we can learn maybe from guys like Rafa, for example. Like he plays every point. The points is isolated. Like, okay, I'm just having to do my best in this point. If I lose the point, fine. I did my best. Then you're kind of off your back. You're like, okay, I put my best in, then I cannot complain too much if I get. That's the thing. Also, it's I think a lot of people find it's easier to lose against players that go for shots and they go in. Like sometimes that happens. You're playing a guy who's like, okay, today he hit everything in. It was a fantastic performance. What can you do? You know.
Yeah.
But when you're losing to someone who's just giving you a ball that you know you should be able to hit back, and you're like escaping the match, or you're tanking it, or you're starting to miss. Then you beat yourself, which is much tougher. You're like relinquishing the challenge to actually overcome yourself. You're like, okay, no, I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah, and the thing that a lot of tennis players have is that when they reflect on their tennis, they just see the best performances they ever had. Like in a training or even in a match, and then they feel like this is how I have to play all the time. And then they go on the court with these expectations, and you never have these days back to back most of the time. You have some great days where you feel great on the court, the conditions are great, you're feeling the ball great in the string bed, blah, 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 and you're like, oh, amazing, this is how I want to play tennis. But you don't have that like 360 days of the year. It's like you have that occasionally. And when you compete, you will have days where you just don't feel good, the ball is not bouncing well, you don't feel it, the racket feels weird, the strings feel weird, like everything is off. And you still have to play the match. And then you know, is this really a competitor, or is this a guy who bails out? There you can just show that you want to play the ball in, that you try it, and that you stay calm within, like, and focus on every point that you play, and not because then you bail out and racket, blah blah blah, ball.
So easy to you can find a million excuses on a tennis court. Like there's a million. Oh, I didn't sleep. I didn't eat properly. This racket is too heavy. I mean, we're in the racket space a lot. That it's so easy to start blaming something, like especially if you're testing something new. Oh, this string wasn't good. This was like, and it happens in golf. It happens in every sport because equipment is easy to blame on. But a lot of it is you. Like you can adjust how you. If you give your all, there could be other factors, but whatever. But if you don't give everything you have, then you will find excuses anywhere, right? So. That's an interesting part of it. You can use tennis as a mental tool to improve like your life if you want to. It's not easy. I'm not saying I master it, but I think the way you turn it around in your head requires work. But I think it's kind of a challenge to you guys listening, or if you're already a great competitor, that's fine. But to use maybe tennis more as a self-reflection tool and see like how what am I doing on the court? How can I use this? How can I improve this aspect maybe in my whole life as well, right? Not only on tennis.
Yeah, and it is hard work, and it's not easy to look at the demons, face them, think about that, discuss that with family, friends, whatever, whoever, like even mental coaches. When you sit down and talk about that, it can be hard, but I think it's worth it to do that, and you feel that on the court. You feel that you're probably more relaxed in some situations, and it changes how you see competition as well. This is something I would recommend doing if you struggle with that. Don't go away. Don't run away from competition, even if it's just club level competition. Don't run away.
Whatever level.
Face it. Yeah, there's no difference. And also in the feelings, people feel like, okay, the pros are different or stuff. They all have the same issues, like within themselves, and they all have to work on that. So no matter what level you have competition, don't run away. Take a look what is happening within yourself, and then try to figure out how you can solve that. Like be a solver there, not like a guy who's complaining about everything else. And then you're in I think mentally in a better state. You will enjoy tennis more, and you will probably enjoy life more.
100%. It's good wisdom. Before we end, I think it's interesting to talk a little bit about what the pros do, because I think people look at the pros like some superhuman. Of course, they're professional athletes, But I think in tennis is one of those sports where you can actually really pinpoint mannerisms, typical behavior, or things that stand out. Like you have people that do the kind of Bjorn Borg way of being like Iceman, right? I'm not going to show anything. This is a bit like Federer did most of the time, right? He was very hot-headed as a kid. Then something changed, worked with a mental coach for a long time, became Iceman, worked really well for him, suits his brand as well, like his personal brand.
Yeah.
Rafa is also like, okay, 1 point at a time. I don't show too much. I don't give any negative emotions so that the opponent can kind of grab onto. And then you have Novak, if we talked the big three, he likes a bit of like resistance from the audience, from the opponent. He needs something to grab onto to play even better, to kind of raise his level. He needs like some kind of enemy like on the court. It could be the crowd, could be the player, could be everything, right? So different. And then you have guys which you could maybe argue would benefit from this approach that we talked about a bit more. Like you have Kyrgios, who looks like amazing talent, but sometimes escapes the court, like leaves the court instead of facing the demons. I listened to this podcast with Corentin Moutet from Craig Shapiro, and it was also interesting the way he approached it, because he looks like a guy who wants to escape, kind of, he gets so emotional, but that's the way he deals with his emotions. He doesn't know another way. He wants to show his emotions. That's how he tackles it. And everybody has their own way. Maybe they can improve it, but it's also a very personal approach. Like, how do you react to a bad line call? How do you react to things not going your way? Or when things are going your way, do you easily relax and start playing worse? You know, so it's very personal.
Yeah, I think the pro players, most of them work also with mental coaches right now.
Yeah.
They need
They
to.
should. Yeah,
100%. And that's how they got into this like state where they are. Like it's not okay, I feel better. It's work. It's like the same training and work you put in on the tennis court, just hitting a million balls to get better technique, to get the muscle memory. You need the same muscle memory for your brain, for your emotions and stuff. You have to work on that. It's not like, oh, it's going away. Oh, today I feel better, and then all of a sudden, bam, I'm 2 levels better than I was before. It's constant work, and facing it and reflecting. We do that on the tennis court as nerds. Oh, the racket doesn't swing as great, and we are reflective of all of that, but of ourselves, not so much.
No, it's so easy because you're holding in the hand, like, oh, something feels off, but it might be you who are off right today on that day. Like you're not there, you're not focused, you're not in a good state. Like the mood is very different. Like if you come in with a bad mood, it's easy that it reflects in the whole experience, you know.
Yeah, it's not about blaming yourself, right? It's not about like, oh, I'm playing bad and I'm a bad player, and this is not helpful. It's just about like why I am in this state that I am right now.
Acknowledging kind of in an objective way, stepping away from yourself. Like that's an interest. Like that's the inner game of tennis. The book I talked about a lot. It's a very good book. It's about like your mind being like, you know, kind of a calm river, and you being able to observe your emotions and kind of like almost like a meditation. Remove the negative stuff. Like stop that. Like okay, just keep it pretty steady. Might not work for everyone. Some people need also some energy. I sometimes can have very low energy and I need to jump and be a bit angry and start playing a bit better. For some players, they will get too angry and they start swinging and it's just going down or swearing. Like we had a guy the other day on the court next to us who's like in a training match starting to swear it's almost embarrassing. You're like, what is this? Like this is not the behavior you should do. But yeah, we're all different, I guess.
And I think this shows that there are things that you can work on. If you behave like a 5-year-old on the court, maybe you should think about what happened when I was 5 years old, and how do I deal with stuff that is not going my way and stuff. So I think when you are reflective, you can learn a lot about yourself, and this helps in life in general, I think.
One recommendation I have to kind of finish it off is like maybe if you're playing matches, it's to kind of start doing like a match journal. And this could be like a notes on your computer. It could be a hand pad. You don't need to buy like a fancy journal. There are like the functional tennis ones, which are good. Gives you a little bit of pointers, but they can feel overwhelming to start typing everything down and stuff. Just like, okay, what happened in this match? And try to be as objective as you can, right? Like what was my emotional state? What was happening? Why did I do this? You know, I think that helps you maybe to go back in history and see, okay, how the matches evolve, like how your emotions evolve in a match. I think that could be a good idea.
Yeah, and also ask people that maybe come with you to the tournaments. If you're there with a friend or with family, they can observe, and then you give them like the tasks. You just observe my mental state, what you feel, what energy am I giving you on the court and stuff like that, and then you get feedback from this. Don't be angry if it's not good feedback, but this can help as well, like to figure out what is happening on the court, how do I behave on the court, what energy do I spread, right? So
yeah, you see it sometimes. I was watching Madrid yesterday, and And you can see like some players, you know them, like have you seen many matches, but you see something is off on that day or something is weird, they're rushing their service motion. It's just like they don't want to be there anymore. And that happens also on the top 50 guys, right? Like something is not there, he's going to lose 2 sets, and then it was right in that case, right? So it happens on all levels, but the more you can observe why did this happen, how can I prevent it from happening too many times? It might happen more times in your career because you're tennis life, but trying to understand what's going on, right?
Yeah, and don't run away, right?
No, I think that's good. That's a good ending advice. Competitive tennis, when you're finding a way to enjoy it, is fun, and it's something that adds to your tennis life, I think, right? So let me know in the comments if you struggle with anything, if you have any advice you want to give to other players, or anything else you want to share. I think it can help people overcome some challenges in terms of competitive tennis. Thanks, Daniel, as always. Always fun talking tennis with you. He's a very sharp guy and a good player, of course. So a lot to learn from him. So I hope you have a nice day, and
don't forget
to play some tennis.